Yes. So yesterday, finally, we are seeing about what are the different injection types we have in Gatling. Uh, okay, so we have two injection type. One is open injection, and the other one is closed injection. In open injection, we have different things. What at once user, constant users per second. We saw each and every graphs yesterday also. And the closed injection, we also discussed about the scenario about the call center, where in the particular server, how many requests will be there as a constant for a particular period of time. So that's about open injection and closed injection. So any questions till now which we have discussed till yesterday, guys? Any recap or any doubts you have? Take the silence as no, and I'm moving forward. Okay, so with the on the first day session we discussed about the test case management or test data management, right? So Scala has different feeder types. One is Scala utility feeder, where you can write the map function and you can send that as a feeder, or it has file feeders. File feeders we have different types. One is CSV, .tsv, SSV, and JSON file. You know about CSV, right? So comma separated value. Similarly, if in the same Excel file, if you have tab separated value, it is TSV. You have to give the value as TSV. And if you are using semicolon separated value, then we have to give SSV. And show you few samples for that as well. It's taking some time to load. Okay. So our data. Okay, here we have different data: user data, source, model code, item code, and mobile number. Each data has been separated with the comma. So this is a CSV. So we are calling this CSV file in this format. So we have to create a variable. The file. This is a file name. So we are creating a variable for the file name, and for you have to create a feeder with CSV and the file name inside. And here we have multiple methods to get the data from the CSV file. You can randomly get the data, the random in the sense. So you have some thousands of data here, and data should be randomly picked from these 1,000 data. So that is random. Similarly, you have circular. You can also have sequential things. So circular, if you have hundreds of data, it will go from 1 to 100. And for the next load, it will take from the first one. So in the circular map pattern, it will take the data and it will post the request, and then it comes to the first data itself and then post the request. And sequential, till it reaches the end, it will post the data. After that, if there is no data, it will throw an error. So these are three formats which we have for posting the feeders and having a different patterns for that. So it's up to us what data should be selected. So if you want to do it in a sequential or circular or random data, we can post it here. This CSV feeder should be sent into the scenario. So here I have added the feeder, right? Dot feed, the CSV feeder file you should be added. I mean, the feeder file along with the CSV name and the random data, you should be adding those things in the feeder. It should be after scenarios. The scenarios, you should add the dot feeder, and you can add a CSV feeder. Similarly, you can add multiple feeders also. For example, you can add another one feed, feed, and you can add CSV feeder one. in case if you have different data, you can add these things to feeder one.
Arun, one quick question, Arun. So this CSV is there, right? In the line number. Okay, so line number 18, you have the CSV. So that's a method, inbuilt method from the.
That's the inbuilt method. Inbuilt method.
Cool.
So similarly, you can keep on adding the feeders. In the framework, we have already added that.
So this is like just a test data which we are passing it to our homepage. For an example, the username, password, or whatever the things we are passing. So that particular test data we are passing it via CSV file. That's it, right, Arun?
Yeah, that's it. So any test data you are passing it from the Excel sheet, right?
Yes.
Or this is for CSV feeders, and similarly you can take data from database, or you can take data from Catchy, everything you can do. But for CSV, this .csv feeder, we'll see about. Rajesh, you were asking some question, right?
Same question you answered. Like, will it accept only CSV or any other data source?
No. Yeah, we can have file CSV. I mean, file feeder as .csv. If you have this as a tab, the space is tab separated, then you have to give .tsv. And if you are giving a semicolon instead of colon, if there is a semicolon here, it should be SSV. Okay. So based on the separations, it should be the different files should be added here. And you can directly add the JSON file. It's JSON file, you can add it here. Similarly, you can add zipped files, JDBC feeder and Redis feeder. Redis is Catchy feeder. So JDBC is from the database, you can collect the data. I mean, you can fetch the data and send the data. So these are the different feeders which you can use. But this one is faster, so we are using mostly file feeder. But when database, when you have to set the database from the, take the data, data from the database, then you can use the JDBC feeders. So we'll have separate session on what is feeders and how many feeders we have. Probably we'll explain though. In each and every topic, we will discuss that in the point of time. And these are the different HTTP methods which we are having in REST API. So we are going to test the REST. So Gatling supports the HTTP protocol and REST. So these are the different methods we have: get, put, post, delete, head, patch, and options. So those who are already worked on API testing, they might have know what this get, put, post, delete, head, and patch does. So it is the same thing here also. Since it's an HTTP call, we are using the same methods here. Everything is here is in small letters. Since it's a method, everything will be in small letter. We have already seen this samples in the previous example. We can see one more sample here. So HTTP call, get method, you are passing an URI and you are passing the headers. So this is about.
I don't know if you don't mind, can you please explain me what is this get, put, post? These all around.
Okay.
Before that, I have a question, Arun. Can you go to the code?
Sorry?
Can you go to the code?
Okay.
Hey, here you have taken the feeder, more than one feeder you have taken, CSV feeder and CSV feeder 1, right?
Yeah.
So when you are passing data to the particular endpoint, from which feeder it is taking, how do you say that, okay, take data from this endpoint and give something to the...
So in the scenario, I have added 2 feeders. These 2 feeders will have every data, right? So it will take it from the latest one. That's a default method. But ideally, this feeder, you don't have to add the same feeders, right? Generally, you will add multiple test data. For example, here I have phone data and here I have email data. So let's add here is an email data. So from one thing, I'll be taking the email and the other one, I will be taking the phone number. So both the data will be added into the scenario. So whichever endpoints using these data, it can be directly taken from here.
That's what is like, how it is taking the data from the feeder. I mean, if you store some the data.
Okay. As of now, we are just seeing about the feeders. Okay, I can explain. We want to explain those things. One
Just
second.
show once in the code itself. You can show that phone data where you are accessing, and this one, Arun.
Okay,
And
one
that
second, one
would
second.
be, I think so. That would be great. Arun.
Yeah, sorry. I will just explain that. Okay. Wherever I had EL file body and its request station 619. So I have all my requests in this. Those are new checkout. So here I have a request 169. So this is the format where I am passing this. So ideally, how it will be is any JSON request, it will be like medium. It will be a phone number 9894 something, and comma key is a token here. Let's assume the token is random numbers, and the comma flag as 1. Okay, so this is an ideal format, I mean ideal data that has been passed here. So instead of passing the mobile numbers as static mobile number, we are dynamically taking the mobile numbers from the phone data.csv. So this name and this one will be same.
Okay, the column name of this
And,
file and
the data which we are changing should be same.
okay.
See,
Okay.
Molali, it's
Similarly, the other
as
case.
simple as that one, Molali. So now what it will happen is, so when you record, means usually we have the recorder, right? Gatling recorder. When you have done this Gatling recorder, so we have all these particular request.json files will be generated. When it generated, as Arun showed, the line number 2 is there, right? It would becomes like a hard-coded data. But now what we need to do, as it's a recorded, we'll get the hard-coded data. Now I need to make that one as from static to the dynamic. Means I need to pass different set of data. Now what I'll try to do, I'll give the dollar symbol and the column name over here. So now here, if I given the mobile number, it will take the mobile number from the phone book. If I given the email, means it will go to the email data and then it will fetch the email data there.
So there will be multiple feeders we can give, and those columns we can able to access in all our request.json files. Basically.
Perfect. That's it. And
Okay.
this request.jsons, where it will be called is in the scripts we will be calling it. So just Arun, just show that Scala file. In here, like this.
The request number we are providing request underscore 1651 1649 something like that we are providing.
Yes, that's it. So that's a completely interlinked. It's a chain process. So feeders we will be passing to the scenario, and then in the request number it will go to the request body file, and in the request body file we have that particular column data column name, and then it will fetch that data from the CSV file. As Arun told, it will first go as a random or that sequential or a circle. So this with it will circulate all these things, and then it will generate the results for us.
Okay. And for the providing the load here, we are giving as a constant also, like we need 50 users, 100 users. Do we provide any load here too?
Yes, that is where now yesterday we
saw that, right?
Simulation file.
Okay.
So here, this load type which we are doing.
Oh yeah, got it. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, yes. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Darren.
Okay. So feeders done, right? So HTTP methods. So with HTTP methods in API, we call this as a CRUD method. So if someone has worked on database, you might know about CRUD, which is create, read, update, and delete. So if you know REST API, so REST is architecture style which follows this pattern. So create, read, update, and delete. So create the data, reading the data, updating the data, and delete the data. So this is what the thing they are also used in REST API as well. So here create is equal to post, and read or selecting the data is equal to get method, and updating the data, the same data is called put method, and deleting the method is called delete method. So all others are optional methods. So mostly you'll be using these 4 methods in most of your API testing as well as for your load testing. So this get method, what it will do is it will fetch the data from the respected URL. For example, if you see in the browser, so whatever I am posting here, google.com. So if you type this and print enter, once again, I'll just show what is happening at the back end. Okay, if you type this and post this, you will be having a get method call. Where am I missing it?
Again now.
Because I'm missing it somewhere. So whatever you're posting in the browser URL, it's always a get method. I just want to show that to you guys.
Arun, try Swiggy. You can have a lot of things.
I'm just trying to get the methods. Okay. So for Google, you can see that it's request is a get method, right? And if for the Amazon also, it should be a get method for the first one. Where is it? So after calling Amazon, Amazon in turn will call all these things. This is a post method and all other things will be called. But the URL, this amazon.in, it's always a get method from the browser. So it will fetch the data from the Amazon and it will display your result. And posting data is if you are gonna sign in, whatever I'm gonna sign in here, if I am gonna enter some value here, it will be, let's type my name itself. And if I click continue, it should be a post call. Just could you see that URL? Couldn't get this URL here. Try. It's a post method. It should send my username and password here. But since it should be hidden, it will not be shown here. But whatever the sign in endpoint, right? It's a post endpoint. Navigation sign in, it's a post endpoint. So whatever data we are doing or posting to the particular website, it will all be a post method. And if you want to read it, it is just a get method. So that's about get and post. And put method is to update the existing data. If you want to update your password or if you want to update your cart, they will use the post method. And if you want to, if you added the cart and you want to delete some values from the cart, they will use the delete method. So that's a general thing. It's just an architectural style. It is recommended, but it is not a mandatory one. So even for delete, they can use post method, or even for getting the data, they can use post method. But this is an industry standard recommended by Rai Holdings. He's a guy who has defined the thing. So these are the architecture style for the REST API. Chris, you want to explain more about this, or is it fine?
I think you have done very well. So it's okay, Arun. Guys, but understand this is really, really very important. Until you understand this particular get, put, post, delete, head, patch options. So these are all the endpoints or the methods which we will be using in our scripts. So that's where I asked Arun to explain this one. And these definitely you should understand. Then if you understand only, you can understand in the script level.
Okay, can somebody help in understanding what is head and patch options? Above 4, I understood.
Just setting the headers and just sending the patch updates alone.
Okay.
In the put method, you will be updating the entire thing. If you want to update a particular thing, only you can use the patch. And options, it's just an option. You can even see this in here. Control F. Generally, in resource and other options, you'll be having option. Probably I couldn't see here. Probably I can show some sample later for options. Probably tomorrow I can take some scenario and I can show how option works.
Yeah.
Sure. Guys, to have this some more clarity, once again, I just give you, as Arun given, so but still I was giving some information. See, get is something we need to, means for example, there is a server. I'll giving you the layman information. I'll not go into the most details as Arun already given. There is a server. I need some information. So now here you are the client. Okay. So always what it will happen is client request, server gives a response. So it's like a hotel you went, in a hotel you ordered for something and you'll get in return for that. So now you ordered idli. So a server will come and then he will serve you the idli, right? If you don't, he didn't serve. So what you will do, you'll complain. So now when you got the success, then it is 2 XX. Always success will inform, it means 200 is a success status code, and 1 XX. This is just, it gives you the information. So only the information will be posted here, and 3 XX. So the 3 XX is nothing but it's a redirection. Means for an example, from our page, we are redirecting to the Facebook or Instagram or for any other sites. If you are doing the redirections, that it will get. And 4 XX. 4 XX is nothing but client side errors. Is there any problem in the front end UI page? So then it is called the client side errors. So now the fifth one, the last one but not least, which is server side errors. 5 XX means 501, 502, 503, 504. Every error will have a separate status code for that, and status code and status message for that. So now if you see here, he requested and we got the response. Now for doing this particular request and response, we have these many options are there. So now get means what we are trying to do from the server side. I wanted to get some information. So now what we have been given, I given the URL as Amazon. So now Arun triggered it, right? As a response, what you got? So that complete page. So now what it was happening, so that for loading that particular home page, I need logo, I need search box, and I need some other images, right? Everything would be stored in one URL. So now as soon as I call this Amazon.com, it will go and then it will bring out in parallel to me all these particular endpoints also into this particular page. So this is how the request response model will work in our APIs. So now, so we requested, we got. So now from the get, what it will perform this particular action is, I'm just saying that Amazon.com, I'm giving this order and it will give me the response. Now let's come for the post. Post is nothing but, for an example, I give the same example for all. So that's where I'm trying to use the same thing. Username, password, and then login button. So I need to enter username, password, and click this login button so that it need to go to the home page. Now, if you see here, I entered username, password, click the login button. Now, what it will do, it will take, means I'm trying to post something. What I'm trying to post to the server from the client. Now I'm taking the username, I'm taking the password, and if I click this login button, this will call me the post endpoint. What is this post endpoint will do? Boss, whatever the username you given, whatever the password you given, I take the username and password and I hit the server and I'll check, boss, whether you have this username password. I'll check it in the DB. So then if the data is there, then what it will return me? What code it will return me? What code it will return me? Which is success?
200.
200 it will return me. So now I got the 200. Then what means, as soon as I get the 200 status code, I'll allow this front user to go to the home page. So this is how this particular page will allowed, and then it will go to the home page. Now this is what the post request. Post request will take the username, password, and then it will hit the server, and then it get that response. Now put. So now how the put would be executed means, for an example, I have already created my profile. So previously my number is 98506664. Now I wanted to update this particular data with 98506685. When I wanted to update this particular data now, I'll use the put request. Now for the put also, it will have the post body, and where I need to update this particular number from here, And then from here, client to server means when I enter means I'll change. I'll click the edit button, and in the edit button, I'll enter the 98506665, and then I'll click edit, right? Soon as I click this edit button, this will go for a put request. So now put means what? It will update. If you wanted to update anything existing, so then we will try to use the put request. So now what this put will take, it will take this number, go to the server, and it will update that particular thing, and then it will get back. So this is how the put request will work. And delete request, as the name itself, it says that record I need to delete. I wanted to delete the Chris user. So now I'll click this particular delete, means for example, there is a delete button. Delete your Facebook account. As soon as you delete this one, so immediately it will go into your database and it will delete that particular accounts. So that's how this particular delete URL would be working for us. So this is how these 4 things would be working for us, and this is how this particular 4 methods would be work for us. Any questions on this one? Clear?
Yeah. So
That's it.
one last question here. Will this replace or will just update?
Update.
Update meaning you can add one, or if not, replace it.
Yes. See, always you need to understand. That's where Arun told you the crude operations. Update will be done by the update will be, which is a put. Put will do the update. Delete will do the deleting. And get will do the reading. Post will read and then even write. So that is an option for this one. So that's how it happens. Yeah, Arun, over to you. Sorry.
One more question, Chris.
This will be not answered for you. You should explain us this one. You shouldn't ask any questions. However, go ahead, Mololi.
Okay. I mean, 2 questions basically. In this get, put, and post. So, do you think like in these 3 type of HTTP methods, can't we able to get the data? I mean, we are not doing any create operation and we are not doing any update operation. We have a request where the API endpoint like get and put and the post is there. So can we able to get the data without doing the operations which you are saying there?
Means you mean to say that there are any other methods like this get, put, post to do the only get the data?
No, I'm what I was saying that with the get method, you are saying like we are able to read the data. That's correct. With the put method, I'm saying I can able to read the data. And with the post method, I'm saying we can able to read the data.
Yeah, Maulali. Even with get method, you can even post the data. I also mentioned one point here. It's an architectural style. REST is a complete architectural style, which is recommended, but it will not work in whatever way which we are providing here. It's all depends upon the implementation what you are doing at the backend. So even for get method, you can get the data and you can make some process and you can create a data at the backend. That can happen. Why we are not using get for sending the data is, for example, if I am using the login method, right? And I am using Arun and my password, which is highly secretable, highly secret thing, which we shouldn't put in the, use the get method to post it. We shouldn't use the get method because it will be completely visible for the one who can interrupt and check the response. So for those people, it will be directly visible in the URL. So we shouldn't use get method to post the data. So since it is not a secured method, so we shouldn't use the get method over there. Similarly, if you are get request, right? In the get request, you are having a very large number of string which you need to post and get the data. So get has a limitations over there. So you can consider up to 140 or 200 characters in the get URL. If it exceeds, it will throw an error. So what they have to do is for those time, you have to use the post method only to get the data. So get, put, post, and delete. It's an architectural style which you should follow or which you are recommended to follow, but it is not mandatory that you should follow this. It's a recommended style.
Okay, that's fine. I don't want to be confused you guys because it's a little bit deeper concept. That's
probably we can discuss in a separate call, or you can even discuss more about that.
Yeah. And the other point, Chris, 4XX is the one which you are saying is the client
Client-side error.
client-side error, right? So now basically we are dealing about everything with the endpoints. Means like
Yes.
we are sending the request and getting the data. So
Yes.
the response code we are getting from the backend application like Java application or Node.js, whatever it is. So that is a response code. It is giving like, okay, I have completed your request and this is your response code 200. And there is a 300 is there where I am redirecting to the some other endpoint. That is a 300 status code. And the 500 is like, I have a issue in my code. So I am not able to process your request. This is your response code 500. Now the 400, the 400 one which you are saying is a client side. The client side in the sense like it's a UI part. So we are totally dealing with the backend part. Now why this UI part come into the picture here?
Arun, you wanted to answer this or you want me to give this?
Probably I can answer this.
Sure.
For example, Morali, so let's assume we are expecting at symbol at the email ID, right? And someone by mistake in the email ID, by mistake someone they are not providing that symbol, or the domain name they are not sending, or proper domain name is not sending. So at the back end, what we will verify is whether the UN value is a valid email ID. We'll check that and we will say, so this is not the proper format. So send to the proper format. So through the client, if we send 400x, they will know that, okay, this is not the proper format for them. We have to check this field should be modified and they will modify those things. So this is again part of implementation. Sorry.
I'll tell you one more point here. See.
Okay.
I mean, see, basically the validations part, you will check in the client side itself rather than going back to the application, to the website. Okay. So with the JavaScript itself, we can able to check it. That's another story. Now, the point here is when you send some the data which is not proper, that means like you will not get the response out of it. Like, for example, you have given the email ID, which is with not with @gmail.com, something you given. You are checking to the database, that data is not available and it will give you the null object basically. So that data is not available.
That null should be handled and that should be sent as a 400 status code to the client. Only then client will know that the request that they had sent has been wrong. So there are even in 4x's that we have multiple things, 400 and 404, 403, 405. So 405 in the sense, instead of, so at the backend, they might have implemented a post method, and instead of giving a post method, if you put get method, the method is not allowed. The HTTP verb is not allowed for the particular endpoint. So they will say 405. So based on that, you have to make changes, or the client side should make the changes for that. Similarly, for 400, it's a bad request. 404, you are hitting a endpoint which is not even available at the client in server side. So that is 404. So those are all the mistake that has been done from the client side. So they have to rectify these things to get a proper response.
I understand, Arun, but my point here is, see, if
Molali,
saying,
Mr. Molali, can we take this one offline because it might deviate for all others, please? Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Arun. Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So the HTTP, these are HTTP methods, and Chris, how to delete this? Chris? Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I'm on mute. I'm deleting it.
Okay. So for HTTP request, we have get method and post method, right? Sending the data for get method, we have two formats. One is in the sequential format or in the map format. I am not sure whether I have an example for that. Let me check if I have an example for that. I don't have an example for that. Let me give me a second. Where is it? Okay, so for using query param for the post method. Okay, so for this thing we have form param. I'm just saying for form param now. The same is applicable for query param as well. For the post method, either you can use form param and give the key value pair, or you can directly use the request like this format. Or you can even create a map and send the map to the body, which map is a key value pair. You can even send this map to the body and you can send. So these are the three formats of sending or creating body for the post parameter. If for get parameter, instead of post, we'll be having get here. And instead of form param, we have to give us a query param. So these are the two formats how we have to write the body for the request, respected endpoint. For get for get endpoint, it is dot query param, and for post endpoint, it is form param. So these are two formats here. Apart from that, the third one is the map format. So map, you can send it. You can create the map and you can send that as an endpoint here, key value pair. So you guys know about the query parameter, right? So in get endpoint, we have two things. One is path parameters and another one is query parameter. I'm just trying to show some example. So if it comes in the path, the slash address domain, it is a path parameter. And if it is coming after the question mark, so here everything is path parameter. Okay, here this contains both. So anything which comes under before question mark, it's path parameters. Any dynamic value comes between this question mark, it's path parameters. After the question mark, if you are sending any data with key value pair, that is a query parameter. So for this only, we have to send it as a dot query param. In the body, you can directly add, or in the authentication, the params you can add, the query params can be added here. So response code and response type and code. So that's what is been displayed here. Client ID and the value. So client ID and value. So if we add it in the query parameters, it will become after question mark and it will be visible in the URL. So these are the two formats. So if you want to add for post method, it will be form param. So whatever data changes, it will be as a form param. It's form data. Here we are mentioning is form data, but that is a form param in the Gatling scale methods. So these are two different types. And the other one is, so this is something important, guys. So just give some concentration over here. So raw file, you can even have the entire request in a JSON file. So which we have seen already. Those are checkout file. We have checked out request number 619, right? 1169. Okay. So either you can give here as EL file body or raw file body. I can say somewhere raw file body, or you can even send it as a string body. So all these things comes under the body for the post method. If it's a string body, you can directly post all the JSON file inside the 3 quotes. It's a string format. This is how you have to send it if you are passing through string body. And if you are going to send the raw file, just the raw file should be fine. 0612 request, right? 0162. So you are not changing anything. It will be having a static data here. No, nothing or any dynamic data cannot be passed in a raw file. It's just a raw JSON file. We have to send it in this format. And if you are going to
one basic question, maybe it's a stupid question. So here, whatever you're talking about body, can you go back to that one? The other side. Yeah. So whatever we're talking about raw body or EL or string, so these all will be passed in a, like as you showed in the Postman, you have body. So the this is a API body.
Whatever body which you are posting here in the post, this we are just copying here and we'll be pasting it in the string body.
String body.
So if you pass it as a string body, string body, and in triple quotes, if you paste it here, that is string body. And if you want to make any changes, or if you want to take those files as a JSON file, you can save it as a JSON file in a separate folder and take from there. Then you can make it as a raw file, which is how it is shown here, a raw file body. The raw file request is this one. No changes will be there, or it is static data. And if you want to make any dynamic changes in this raw file, then you have to make it as a EL file body. EL file body, which is expression language file
Okay,
body.
again, raw file is also a static value. So only the dynamic part is only EL value.
EL file and string body also you can make a dynamic value.
Okay.
So string also you can do a dynamic value.
So what is the difference there?
Add one
When
point.
should we use anyone?
Okay, if you have a small request, you can have it in the string body. Within the file itself, you can use it and you can make the modifications. And if you feel there is a huge request and it's always static, you can keep it in the JSON file, and you can use a raw file body. And the file, I mean, the request is also bigger, and you want to have dynamic values in that, then you can use expression language file body.
Okay.
See, Pramod, now, as Arun said, if you see the line number 60, see now the string body. So now in a code, I don't want to keep all these things from 59 line. So Arun, can you scroll a little bit down? If you see here, what is the size of this one? This is the size which you need to wanted to post it. Do you wanted to keep this one in the same scenario, means the Scala file? Rather than that, what you can do, see, if you wanted to pass a string body, then you need to directly keep everything in this. If you wanted to do the parameterization, what you'll do, instead of this one, I'll use a raw file where I'll give the path of that particular file. So as you see on the left hand side, those are new checkout folder. I'll create one more text file. In that one, I'll write it as this is a string body for so and so, and then I'll give the path here by keeping the raw file. But in the raw file, what it will be there, it's a static data. So now what I wanted to do, I wanted to pass the data from the CSV feeder to this particular raw file, and from this raw file, it need to pass them. Then I need to, rather than using the raw body, then I'll be using the ELF body. That's it. That's the basic difference between the three. And even if you wanted to make the changes in this string body, even here also you can make this one as static and dynamic. Both options are available. But in raw file, you have only one option, which is static. So that's the three differences between this. Got it?
Yeah.
Cool. Over to you, Arun. Thank you.
So these are three different types of using the bodies. And for checking the response,
Arun,
so
what
we
is
have
quick curious question, Arun? What do you mean by EL, Arun?
expression language.
Oh, okay.
So we are making some expressions inside the body. So that's why we are writing expression language.
Super. Thank you. Got it.
So once after posting the request, you want to check the response, right? So we have two things. One is status check, dot status, you can check it there. And in the response body check, we can also check the response. You can even, let's assume this is the response you are getting here. And you want to check what's happening, or you want to store this name money into a different one. So here I'm just checking, check JSON path if name is equal to money. This is what I'm asserting here. This is just upon assertion. You can just check here. So if you want to check for customer ID, here you have to put customer ID and the value you have to paste it here. So this is for assertion. Similarly, you have lots of assertion, but I just give an example here. Maybe I can give some other assertion also, maybe in the next coming session. I will prepare and I will give a session for that. And the last one here is correlation. So whatever you have got there, and you have to use it from for the next upcoming request. Then you have to use the correlation. So correlation concept is one of the important concept in both API testing as well as for the load testing. So whatever value I'm getting from this, the customer ID I am using as a user ID, I'm saving as a user ID. So any place which I'm going to use this user ID, I will just make the changes in the upcoming endpoints. I'll view. So you know how we have to replace it, right? Like dollar email ID. So instead of that, I will use user ID and I can send the data. Any questions here? I am not sure whether I have.
Guys, this is really very important for us. Now, Arun, can you go once for the check, Arun, before method? Before slide, please. See, now what here we are trying to do is, now this is what the response you got it. So name equal to money. See, for example, you requested. So for example, what I said, I requested the idli. The server come back and say that bus idli is ready. Take it your idli. Now this is what my response. But whether I need to validate that, whether I got idli or dosa. So that is what this check is trying to do. So now, okay, not that particular validation. So now what here it was trying to do is, I'm just trying to if you see here, if I use is means, I'm just doing the assertion whether I got idli or dosa. That is what I'm checking for. Dollar name means this is the parameter name, and in front of that one dollar dot I have been given dollar dot name, means whatever the value stored in this particular name is money or not. So that is what I'm checking with this particular check method. Okay, so the syntax for this one is dot check method passing the JSON or JSON path. The means whatever you are seeing the dollar dot name, this is the JSON path. If you attended for API sessions, we understand what you meant by JSON path. So this is like our identifier, locator identifier in our UI automation. In UI automation, you use the UI locator, right? So that's how we are identifying the path of this one in the JSON. So now in this particular JSON, for dollar name, what is the value you are having? Money. Now, if I given here, instead of money, if I have been given Chris, this will fail because response I got it as money, but is money, I have been given it as response I got money, but here I'm giving it as Chris. The assertion will get failed. So this is what the dot check method will do. Now, coming back to the correlation. Correlation topic is one of the most important topic in performance testing across any tool, and even in the API testing also. If you go to Arun, can you go for 13 slide, please? What it was happening is, I got the response. Now, previously what I did, I was doing assertion, whether it was the right value I'm getting it or not. That is what I was doing the assertion there. But here what I'm trying to do, I'm doing the correlation. Correlation means, in a simple words, I'm assigning the value to the variable. Now, if you see here, I got whatever the customer ID, I'll save that one as a user ID. So now I got the ID as 007. So now I assign that particular value to the user ID. Now, wherever I need to call the customer ID, I'll be calling it as user ID because the value has been assigned. Whatever the value I got it for the customer ID, I assign that particular value to the user ID now. So now in the script, wherever I need to use the customer ID, I'll call that as a user ID. So user ID will come and then it will show me the value. Means it's same left-hand side value assigning to the right-hand side value assigning into the left-hand side. We will be declaring a variable, right? Int a equal to 100 means 100 value will go and store into the a. Same way, whatever the value in the customer ID, it would be stored into the user ID. Now I can call this particular user ID wherever I want. So that's how this correlation will work. So now how we need to pass the correlation is JSON path, the path of that particular value, and dot save as in which key I wanted to store. So that key name. So same here in the next line, if you see access token. So access token, dollar access token, and save as key equal to authorization. So now whenever I wanted to call the access token, I'll call with the authorization. Thanks, Arun. So it's a very clear-cut explanation you have been given for us in the previous sessions. So with that, I just try to explain over here. Thank you so much. Guys, did we understood this correlation and then check?
One question, Chris. Can you go back to the previous slide? Hey, here, whatever the response we got from the endpoint, we are going to be check, we are going to assert, is it correct or not. Now, the response object is a little bit bigger. Means like, there is a, it's
Paragraph.
a JSON. So it has like, arrays include that, and the nested objects is available. So how do we check all these things? Basically, like,
It's just a
yeah.
JSON path parameter. That's it. So you can use a JSON path to get this data. For example, it's nested. We have another one just inside customer.
No, Arun, what my question was, see, whatever you're doing, it's correct because the response you're getting from the endpoint and you're validating this is correct or not. Then if it is matches, then it is good. So what
Okay.
you're expecting value and what is your actual value, that is what
Mhm.
you are verifying here, right? My
Okay.
question was, if the response object is bigger, how do we write that bigger response object to check here, to validate with actual versus result basically?
Okay. Okay. So you
To
want to
add
check
one
two
pointer,
or
Arun,
both?
I'll just give it to
Yeah,
you.
sorry.
Actually, Maulali, in performance testing, our intention is not to check the functionality. See, I understand that we need to validate whether we need to validate the success code or not, but we will not do the functional testing here. But when we means in the API automation, we'll do the functional in detail level of functional testing. If it is a response body, you have a bigger response body also, we'll do it. How we have been, see now if you seen here, right, $name. Now if for an example, you have a nested object here. Now for an example, name, under name, I have another object, under object one, I have object two. Now how I'll correlate this one is, this is what the plugin, JSON path plugin. So now this particular JSON plugin, what it will try to do, $name dot object one dot object two, and then I'll access that particular value. Each and every value I'll take it and then I'll validate it. For an example, in object two, I have name equal to Chris. Now what I'll be giving is $name dot object one dot object two, object two till here there I'll give it, and dot is Chris. So there is some means to what level you wanted, you can have any size of an object. So any size of an JSON response, we can validate it. That we will do it in API automation.
Okay. Okay. But usually we will not do this actual versus result in the performance testing. Right?
Exactly. Because what is the objective of the testing is important. See now in API testing, what is our objective? Functionality, whether I'll validate the status code, I'll validate the status time, response time, response code, and response size, response body, response headers, and response body values, and then null values, mandatory values, everything I'll check it in the API. So that's the reason we shouldn't forget our hierarchy in testing. First, we should do the API testing or API automation, then we should go for the UI automation. And if everything is stable, everything is working fine, then only we should go for the performance testing. If at all this UI automation and API automation is not stable and it's not working, and it is not suggestible to go in your hierarchy for performance testing. After, see now the last testing is after performance testing, you should go for the ETL, and after ETL, you should go for the security testing. So this is what the industry standard was. First, to make sure your functionality working fine. Then see, if API is not working fine, UI don't test it. It will fail because API level itself it was failing. Now your UI is working, your API is working. Then you test your performance testing. Okay, if your performance and everything is working, then you go for the security testing. So this is the standards which we need to do it.
Yeah, I understand that, Maji. But point is, we usually will not do in the performance testing this check and assertion. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Will not do. But only the pointer is Harun is saying for few things we have few validations, because for certain places 1 or 2 values we need to validate it. So that is where he was trying to show what is check and what is correlation. Correlation is the most important thing which we will use it in our scripts. For especially for the dynamic value changings, you seen it right for barrier token. What I'll do dynamically every time the barrier token will be generated. So first I hit that, I got that barrier token, I keep into the authenticate one variable, and then that variable can be accessed everywhere. So that is where the correlation used more. Check, probably you will use very limited in our scripts.
Yes.
Right, Arun?
Yeah.
You can add.
Not use.
Yeah.
Very mostly in worst case you will check the status alone. So apart from that, the things generally we don't check this in the assessment.
Sure. Arun, I'm sorry. You can correct me if I'm wrong in terms of any other pointers you wanted to add.
No, Chris, you are right.
Okay, cool.
One question
So-
here, like normally we try to, I saw somewhere asking for like a response time also you'll pass it here. Like that means the response should be 200 or 500. Sometimes we will pass whatever it is. So
That is a
is it the
status check.
same status check, right?
Yeah,
You will put
status
that
check.
as a 200 or 500, whatever you are.
So
expecting.
generally while recording you will be getting this, but in API testing generally we don't do this. But while recording you may get the status is 200 as a check. So that's why I just explaining this concept as assertion. So while recording, they will check at the front end whether you are getting 200 and they will do the next process. So that's why I'm just explaining the assertions and other things.
Gopi,
So in API
Yeah.
generally we don't use this.
one important thing, you spelled out, it says response time. It's not response time.
Response, no.
Status
Response
code. Status code or response code is that,
Yeah.
and time will be given you in the
No,
milliseconds.
I did not say time, but hour. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, so Arun, so is that the
Yeah.
things done for day?
Yeah, that's it for today, guys. I mean,
So-
next day we'll see a demo and we will work on. We'll use the bundle and we will write a scenario or we will record a scenario on the next upcoming session and we'll do a workshop on Monday.
Okay, thank you, Arun. Thank you so much for all your
Thank
time
you, guys.
and
Thank
for
you.
the wonderful session.
I
Thanks
really
all.
Thank
appreciate Aaron, because you are bearing